So great news, Canada. The Bank of Canada governor has grown a set of testicles and has actually reduced the Bank of Canada rate. It's come down today by 25 basis points, 0.25%, and that's just good news. Now, what does it all mean? Well, I brought the Bank of Canada governor all the way from Ottawa, Tiff Macklem, to discuss it with him, and we're going to find out what his thoughts are. What are his reasons? And I'm going to question him, and we're going to see what he thinks. I don't have to explain one goddamn thing to you, you fat bastard. Well, Tiff, I don't know. That's seems a bit sort of aggressive in your tone. Okay. Now, look, you know that the Canada economy is slipping. Why did you wait so long? Why did you wait so long to cut? None of your business, you dirty, rotten man. I don't know why I'm here at all. You made me show up. You're hateful. All right, well, it doesn't look like we can make too much progress here with that attitude, Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem. So I'm going to have to say time for you to go. But do you have any parting words? I absolutely hate you, you huge gob of goo. Thank you, Governor Macklem, for your kind words. Okay. So you heard from the Bank of Canada governor his opinions of me and my questions, and that's that's just the way it goes. He is entitled to his opinion. I get talked into doing this thing. All right, so the rates come down. What do we do? What do we think? What's going to happen? Well, immediately, the commercial banks are going to drop 0.25%. Everybody's HELOC goes down. Variable rate mortgages all go down. It only takes a matter of days. You'll see it reflected on your next statement at the end of the month. By July, you'll see it come through in all of your different products that have to do with prime rate, with commercial banks. You're in great shape. Okay. Better than before. Every single drop is better for people who have a variable rate mortgage and a HELOC. It's just good news. Now, the really interesting question is what happens now? It's just the start. And let's face it, 25 basis points on a 0.25% on a $500,000 mortgage is only $75 a month, a little bit less. So it's not the end of the world. It's not going to change everybody's life. But what does it really mean? It means the rate cuts have started. I mean, there's no such thing as one rate cut and then they go away for a year. That never happens, never will happen. So we know that the rates will come down, but how far and how fast? Well, let's look at some simple truths. In all likelihood, there will be a second cut in July or a second 25 basis point cut in September or July. So we'll end up soon with 0.5% of cuts. It'll go from 5% to 4.5%. But what happens then? There's an important factor that enters into it. We are acting prior to any move by the Bank of Canada has acted prior to any move by the U.S. Fed. So this means that our Canadian dollar versus the U.S. dollar is going to take a hit. It's important. We can't take an enormous hit. Now, obviously, the Bank of Canada modeled all this stuff. They studied all this stuff before they made the announcement. They know it's not going to be an enormous, unmanageable problem, that there might come off 0.5 cent, might come off 60 basis points, who knows. They know it's not a problem that's going to change the world. So, but why does it have to stop at 50? This is the reason. The Bank of Canada has to watch what the U.S. Fed does, and the U.S. Fed has a problem. It doesn't want to cut during the summer, but as it comes closer to September and October, it is bound by the tradition of never changing interest rates during a U.S. presidential election. So it only happens once every 4 years, but here it is. So there's no chance that the U.S. Fed will drop their rate until after the November election. So that takes us into December, really the end of the year. Now, in all likelihood, the Fed will start to drop. They've signaled it. They've signaled there's no more hikes. They've signaled this is a full pause waiting for the next part of the cycle. But it can't happen until late in the year. So probably what the Bank of Canada does is drop 50 basis points. Remember, the Bank of Canada increased first ahead of the Fed. So there's some precedent for this to happen. Now, what happens after that? What happens once the U.S. Fed starts cutting its rate? Well, then that opens it up. Canada can follow suit. It has no particular impact on the dollar as Canada matches the Fed cut for cut. And that means that we could conceivably have a rate at the end of 2025 of somewhere between 3 and 3.5% at our bank, at the Bank of Canada. So that would have a major impact. Probably going to take about 18 months for this whole thing to settle out. Now, I'm suggesting this could happen. There's 1 million crazy things could happen in between. Taiwan, Ukraine, who the hell knows? I'm not the expert on geopolitical affairs, obviously. But barring some catastrophic change, the typical cycle is that rates would drop with a final rate in Canada of somewhere between probably 3 and 3.5%. Now, there's some people who say, oh no, it's going to go all the way to 2.5%. I don't know, being conservative, but here's the ultimate point. There's no such thing as just a quarter percent, 25 basis point change and stop for a year. That's never happened, never going to happen. So the trend is now, changes will occur. There will be rate relief. Now, what about the housing market? I'm not going to go into that today, another time, but let's get the announcement out of the way. Finally, some relief for people with HELOCs and variable rate mortgages.